Hey, good morning. This is Spirit Journey. Today is February 10th, 2016, and it's after 10:30 a.m. This is actually a continuation of a series of videos that I posted up yesterday on YouTube. This is going to be discussing again about Adam and Eve and what is the significance behind the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I mentioned yesterday about in Nazi Germany that they had death camps, and that at least this one particular death camp had written on the gate that work makes freedom. Then I started thinking about the story about the Anunnaki and the slave people that were working on their behalf. I started thinking about the significance of the Garden of Eden. I almost said evil. I'm sorry. The Garden of Eden, and I mentioned that the word Eden means pleasure. So you have Adam and Eve that are placed there in the Garden of Pleasure / Eden, and they were to work it. Okay? Now, whether they were slaves or what was their work in, and then you have these two trees. Why these trees are there, and why were they told don't eat of this one particular tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Okay? And once they both ate of that tree, nothing happened when Eve alone ate it, but once Adam partaken of that tree, did both of them, the effects of that tree happened to them, and it resulted in them being banished from the Garden of Eden, and that they were also banished from there because also the tree of life was there. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's video that the tree of life had to do, according to Damon T. Berry's video, or I should say movie, that there is a constellation called the Tree of Life. Okay, so, and according to that video, it suggested that that is our, human beings' actual birthplace, origins. So as I think, okay, where's this Garden of Eden place? And then I started thinking that maybe this Garden of Eden wasn't actually here on planet Earth. It could have been in another place, another dimension, but they have these two trees, And I remember seeing over the internet, you see it quite often when they show pictures of the Anunnaki, and they're in front of this thing, and it stands up vertically, and it has these little balls, it almost look like little flowers, and they're all interconnected to one another. And I think in Egypt, ancient Egypt, some of the sketches from way back in ancient Egypt, they also have some type of like bunches of something that stands vertical and is clusters of things, and that they're all looking at it. It doesn't look like a regular tree, but one thing you see that they're all, the little bulbs are all interconnected. I started thinking, okay, if they call that a type of tree or a tree of life, and even in Kabbalah, they have their tree of life also, and how they're all interconnected with each other. I'm thinking that is a portal. Why are they all staring at it? Why just to even touch it? I'm thinking that maybe what Eve and Adam touched was something on this portal, and the portal that they touched was the portal that sends people. When I say the word portal, you think of a doorway, and that doorway is a one-way ticket to planet Earth / prison planet. I know that sounds really out there, but I'm just allowing myself to really just brainstorm, just to challenge myself, and even challenge myself to be incorrect, or maybe even correct, or maybe partially correct. And then you have the tree of life, and that they were somehow because before they were banished from the Garden of Eden / pleasure. Both trees / portals were there, and then they were prevented to get to the tree of life. I'm thinking, and in relation to what Damon T. Berry mentions, that there is a constellation up in the heavens called the Tree of Life, and it's a cluster of stars, and perhaps our parent planet is in that constellation, and that this Tree of Life might have been a doorway back home, because now that they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, being forced to live in a duality environment of life, death, good, bad, up, down, karma. And they didn't want that. So they wanted to race to that tree, the tree of life, and get back to their home planet. But they were forced out. And what were they forced out from? They call it an angel that had a sword. Okay, who is that angel? One thing we know that in those people who follow the stories about the Anunnaki, you have some who are very big and very tall. And so that could have been one of them. Say, hey, you can't get there. You can't get back home. I'm just paraphrasing what could have been said, But you got to start thinking. And again, if Adam and Eve were to work the garden, okay, and according to Anunnaki, it was about gold. So, how is Adam and Eve? See, one thing when you're a slave or a laborer, it's about resources. And these resources are being taken on the behalf of the parent planet or the parent culture, whatever. They have to be able to transport it. So maybe Adam and Eve, that these portals was used to bring the resources that they acquired in the land of Eden back to the host planet. But it fell apart because they are now banished on this planet and are forced to live in duality. And maybe, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, that perhaps the reason why the serpent was permitted to talk to Eve first was because they didn't want them to leave that planet or that dimension, and the Anunnaki wanted them to stay there longer, and that the laws of the universe is all about free will. And with free will, you have to have all options available. And those options include you could leave the place of pleasure / Eden, or you can stay. But the choice is yours. So yes, it was by deception, and things took its course. I know these are really challenging concepts to believe in. And again, I don't even know if I even believe it. But I'm just allowing myself to try to think outside of the box, and that with thinking, and expanded thinking, it's challenging yourself to think outside of that box. Maybe only a fraction of what I'm saying is true, but what is true, those things I could use as pieces of the puzzle, and that one day they'll all come together. I'm learning that the things that I was raised to believe in by school, by family, by society, that it's not what it's not what I believed it was. So at this point in my life, I'm allowing myself to think these things in hopes that one day it will all make sense, and that I'll be able to be free from this matrix/prison planet. So let me know what you think below. You can write your comments below. You can share this video with friends or family members. And you could subscribe to Spirit Journey. And once again, please give me the thumbs up. Peace, guys. Bye-bye.